A day after his exit from the 2020 Olympic Games, Joseph Schooling says an outpouring of support will spur him on. And for a closer look into the psyche of elite athletes, we're joined by Mark Chay. He's a former national swimmer and two-time Olympian. Mark, thanks very much for joining us this evening. So let's talk about Joseph Schooling. All eyes were on him in Tokyo, but set it in context for us. What kind of competition was he up against?
Well, as with any Olympic Games, you can expect the entire field to be faster than it was back in 2016. Example would be, it took 52.0 to reach the semifinals, and this year it took 51.7. Also, competing from 2016 into 2020, some notable exclusions from the semifinals were Matella from France and Tom Shields from the US, and they both didn't make the semifinals as well. And you have this American phenom Caleb Dressel, who is a world record holder right now, swimming 49.71 this morning, and another world record holder in Christoph Malak from Hungary, who won the 200 fly earlier this week. So it was a tough field and a very, very fast one.
Mark, the competition is so intense at the Olympics. I mean, when it comes to other countries' ability to produce these medal-winning athletes, what do they have that perhaps Singapore needs to look more closely at?
Well, there's really no one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to the development of athletes, and each country needs to take into account its own cultural and domestic considerations in building its pathway programs. So, as we see today on the medal tally, we have China, and they have their own nationalized programs, and that doesn't fit with most countries, because of their large populations. But you also have Japan and the US that are in second in the medal tally, and their success is deeply embedded in their strong collegiate programs and professional leagues, as well as the emphasis in sports science. And the colleges, they see sport as that integral part of their education philosophy, and the professional leagues thrive, because they make a lot of money and they're a huge economic machine. But in Singapore, we have made giant steps to equip ourselves and bring ourselves to that international level. And I can attest from my own personal experience that the Singapore Sports Institute today is vastly different from when it was when I was competing 20 years ago. And, there are support programs like the SPEC scholarship that Joe and Zheng Wen are on that help fund and prepare the athletes for the major meets. And the Singapore Sports Institute has recruited and groomed some of the world's best sports scientists to support our athletes. But, the results actually speak for themselves, and we've moved from strength to strength. In 2015, we had the highest medal haul, at the SEA Games, that Singapore ever had. In 2016, of course, we had the historic Olympic gold, and in 2018, we had the best showing at the Asian Games. And we do very, very well in some sports like bowling, table tennis, and swimming, where we consistently churn out Asian beaters. However, we fall short of in others, and way, way short where the targets are still at the Southeast Asian level. But one of the reasons is really the limited resources that we have. The other extreme focus is on age group sports, and our universities and polytechnics really need to come in and make that decision on whether they want to take a narrow view on excellence or take a broader view on development in their education philosophy, and put excellence in the arts and sports on equal standing, together with achievements in the classroom. Lastly, opportunities to take sporting pursuits into adulthood are rather limited in Singapore. And I'm not even going to acknowledge the elephant in the room, which is national service.
Right. Speaking of national service, we were speaking with Joe earlier today. He says, there's much more to be done. Of course, NS remains a big question mark as well. But from Joseph's, perspective, he sort of hinted at a comeback. Where does he need to go to from here on out? How does he reset, so to speak?
Yeah, the kid. I mean, Joseph Schooling is not a kid, right? But I've known him for most of his life, right? And he has a really good head on his shoulders, And really, if I were him, we just take a break. It's ever since 2016, everyone has been talking about is a repeat. right? So take a break, come back with a clear head on your shoulders, and decide what you want to do in the coming year, or in 2023, to 2024 to meet the Olympics, if that is your goal. But really find out what it means, and find the coaches, the teammates, the entourage, the sports scientists, strength conditioning guys to help you get there. So commit to the plan to 2024 if that is the goal. Commit to getting back on the horse, so to speak, and you need more racing opportunities. Where the competitive swimmer, with Joseph Schooling, we are all competitive swimmers. We're not fitness swimmers, right? And we get very dull and blunt if we don't race, right? And every time we race, we pick things up. We tweak these things, whether it's training deficits like fitness, strength, or power, or technical gaps, like what we talk about, stroke efficiency. These small stepping stones, right, which lead to the big shows like the Olympic Games and World Championships matter. And that's something that really swimmers in this particular part of the region really did not have leading up to the Olympic Games.
Mark, thanks very much for your insight perspective. We've been speaking there with Mark Chay, former national swimmer and two-time Olympian.